Hey folks, welcome to the channel, and yet again talking about realistic survival and preparedness, which is what we do here in this channel. It's not about zombies on the end of the world or living in fear. It's rather the opposite. You live in absolute peace and tranquility knowing that you have done everything that is within your power to be better prepared. It's a lifestyle. It's not about being scared and anything like that, all right? Remember, if you want to learn more, you have the channel with a ton of information. Now more than ever, I recommend my books, as always. 3 Survival Skills, the French version, which is selling like crazy. Super proud about that. Thanks for all of the guys in France. And you have the Spanish version and of course the English version of the book, Survival Skills, Surviving the Economic Collapse Now. Particularly important given the economic scenario where we all in now. It's not the end of the world, guys, but it's going to be very complicated. We have to admit that too, right? So yeah, a lot of that covered in especially in this one, all right? You have the audiobook version, and the paper version, which is the one I also recommend having in the Amazon links there below. In this case, we're talking about, yet again, one of these things that we often don't think much about, but this is how it goes. We like to focus on the more dramatic stuff, right? It's gonna be the end of the world and doom and gloom. Well, if you actually look at it, what is it that you have to prepare for? Well, the things that affect most people: cardiovascular disease, stuff that happens to people in life, health issues, economic problems. Now, a lot of people will have a lot of those. That's why that book is particularly important. But then it's situations like these, accidents, and sometimes, many times, involving pets. This is a very sad story. Aggressive Dachshund kills month-old baby after vets ignore worrying parents' concerns and refuse to euthanize it. So the question I have here is, why do you take the dog to be euthanized? Maybe find some other home, a couple or some people that don't have little children. I think that would be a solution. It's not a giant dog. It's going to be very dangerous for other people. I don't know the exact details, but at least that's something I was thinking about when I read this story. But most of all, why did you take it back home if you knew it was aggressive towards your baby? And even more so, why did you leave it or did not protect your baby more and were more aware of where your dog is and where your baby was? I mean, it makes no sense. This, of course, happened in a Russian city in Siberia. So yeah, go figure. Now, it is very sad. Now, this reminds me of several things. First of all, when we think of dangerous dogs, we often don't think about this sort of dog. We think of stories like, stuff like this one. Where is that one that I just saw? Well, a couple pit bulls under the influence of cocaine end up, with the life of a elderly woman in the United States. Stuff that happens too. But in this case, it's not a pit bull. It's a little lap dog that we're looking at. And that is something often that people don't understand how dangerous it can be. Maybe it's not a danger for me or for some other adult, but what about a small child? Especially what about a baby? Well, you have, unfortunately, that story here. I talked about an incident I had a few months ago with my own son. We were visiting and there were a few dogs, and one dog was enormous. The thing was a bear. Don't remember. Pyrenees or Portugal, I don't remember. Just go look at the video. I don't remember the name, but it was a gigantic dog. Maybe one of the largest dogs I've ever seen. It was also one of the more calm dogs I've ever seen in my life. I don't remember ever seeing a dog moving slower or more calmly than that dog. It was a giant damn teddy bear of a dog. But yeah, more like an actual bear of a dog. But super... So just following me around and just wanted to be patted on the head and whatnot, and the kids were all around and everything was great. All of a sudden, that dog tried to rip off my son's head. And because this is what I do for a living, and I know the things that I'm explaining to you guys, I was always very wary of, he's very nice, but don't get too close, especially to the head and the mouth. And if you just patted him on the back, you don't have to pat him in the head or in the nose, even if he's like putting it there for you. Just keep your hands away, especially your face. We don't know this dog. I mean, he's super nice, but honestly, first of all, I didn't bring up that dog myself. I didn't educate that dog. He's not part of our family, and he's still an animal, right? So all of these things you have to take into account. And because of that, I was always making sure that my son was not nearly close to his face. But because I don't want to raise my kids to be scared of dogs or anything like that, especially a dog that's not showing any aggressive behavior, just pat him on the back like so, and that's going to be it. We were there, and all of a sudden, that dog just twisted he was moving like an elderly person, like a 90-year-old guy, and all of a sudden he just bent and twisted around, specifically trying to bite my son in the head. And because he had to move so much and twist so much because he was away from him, given that I had made sure that was the case, he just hit him with the jaw on the forehead, and when he snapped, he just didn't manage to bite into his head. It was a miracle. Part miracle, part being careful to not be too close. If he had been closer, it would have been complete disfigurement in a second, or worse. That was it. Fortunately, that was it. But it was a scene of a horror movie, that second, in which that dog tried to bite off my son's head like that. That was it. He snapped like that. He tried to bite, and when that was it. We just got between the dog and my kid, and that was it. But it could have been horrible. Stuff like this. People think that tiny dogs are not dangerous. You have no idea the kind of damage that a dog like this can do to a very small child. I was never bitten badly. I mean, I've been bitten by dogs before, but never really badly. The worst memory I have with a pet was actually with a cat. Just getting way too close to a cat, and the cat did like this. Just the lines of the claws of the cat, like lines here across my face and down the eye. Fortunately, it was on the actual eye, so it was like a little line, not even a scar, but a line like that. That was it. But it was just miracle. If I hadn't blinked, I could have been scratched on the eye. Hell, you can even lose an eye with that thing if there's a bad infection. So you just never know. You have to be careful with animals. Now, it's not about having the biggest survival dog there is because you want something to eat. Criminals are breaking into your house. Maybe the role of one of these animals is being a company dog. It's going to keep you company. It's going to help people with depression, with stress. And that is all very valid in terms of being prepared and having a good quality of life. So that's something valuable too. Now, the only thing I will say is, as much as I understand that, and yet it could be that your Dogo Argentino works both for boar hunting, wild boar hunting, and hunting damn pumas in Córdoba and keeping you company and whatnot. But maybe all you need is actually a little lap dog, and that's okay too. The only thing I will say is, remember, it's a dog. A dog does not want to be a baby. When people start talking about their furry babies and their furry kids, I lose my mind. I mean, I get it, but really, I get it if you haven't had an actual child, but it's not a baby. It's a dog. And the dog does not want to be a baby either. The dog is the happiest when it understands where it goes in the pack, which the dog assumes it's in. The dog will assume that he's in a pack, and he's happiest when he finds an actual leader to follow and fall in line and do what he's supposed to do as a dog. Even the tiniest little lap dog will be happy trying to warn the master of some sound or some smell or something that he detects and do the thing a dog is supposed to do. It is not a baby. It doesn't want to go play soccer or, play a freaking ball, but it doesn't want to go to kindergarten or read books or be dressed up or have no, it's a dog. It wants to go on long walks, explore, smell, be patted a lot, and that's it. That's the happiest a dog is going to be. If you start confusing things, you'll have a very stressed, maybe even violent and unhappy dog. And it's going to be even dangerous for maybe you and others. So, keep all of that in mind, all right? Keep in mind that treating animals as humans, never a good idea. But they do have a very important place. I completely agree with that and understand it. But be careful, because if you don't do things right, you may end up regretting it. Guys, that's going to be all for now. See you on the next video. Take care.